Have you ever stared at your bank account and seen that magical six-figure number staring back at you for the first time? Congratulations! You have officially joined a club that most people will never reach in their entire lives. But here's the thing that nobody tells you about hitting $100,000. Having the money is actually the easy part. Knowing what to do with it without completely screwing up your financial future is where things get truly interesting. You have probably spent years grinding, saving every dollar you could, and making sacrifices all to reach this milestone. And now that you are here, you are faced with a problem that sounds ridiculous to anyone still living paycheck to paycheck. What do you do when you actually have money to invest? The internet is full of advice ranging from brilliant to completely insane. Some guy on social media will tell you to put it all in cryptocurrency. Your neighbor thinks you should buy rental properties. And your financial advisor is probably pushing some expensive mutual fund that makes them rich while keeping you average. My name is Nick, and I help people understand how money actually works instead of how financial institutions want you to think it works. If you are sitting on $100,000 and want to make decisions that will actually build wealth instead of just making other people wealthy, pay close attention. The truth is, most people who reach $100,000 in savings make the same critical errors that keep them from ever reaching serious wealth. They either get paralyzed by too many options and do nothing, or they get overconfident and make moves that sound smart but are actually terrible for their situation. Today, I am going to walk you through exactly what you should do once you hit this milestone. And more importantly, what you absolutely should not do if you want that $100,000 to become $1 million or more. But first, let me destroy a myth that is probably floating around in your head right now. Having $100,000 does not make you wealthy. I know that sounds harsh, especially if you have worked your tail off to get there, but it is the truth you need to hear. $100,000 makes you financially stable, which is awesome, but it does not make you rich. The difference between those two things determines whether you will spend the rest of your life working for money or whether money will start working for you. Here is what most people do not understand about reaching six figures in savings. You are not at the finish line. You are not even halfway to the finish line. You are at the starting line of actually building wealth. This is where the real game begins. And the moves you make from this point forward will determine whether you retire comfortably or work until you die. The first thing you need to do, and this might surprise you, is absolutely nothing, at least for a few weeks. I know that sounds crazy when you have got all this money burning a hole in your account, but hear me out. The biggest mistake people make when they hit $100,000 is immediately rushing to deploy all of it because they are afraid of missing out on returns. They have been saving for so long that they think any day not investing is a day wasted. This impatience leads to some spectacularly bad decisions. Take a step back and think about your complete financial picture. Yes, having six figures saved is incredible, but what does the rest of your situation look like? Are you carrying any debt? Do you have a solid emergency fund separate from this money? What are your actual financial goals beyond just having money? These questions matter more than whatever the stock market did yesterday. The second thing you need to do is optimize your foundation before you even think about investing. This is not sexy advice, but it is the difference between building wealth and staying middle class forever. If you do not have a proper emergency fund, you need to carve out a portion of that $100,000 for this purpose immediately. I do not care how boring it sounds or how little interest you think you are earning. Your emergency fund is not an investment. It is insurance against life punching you in the face when you least expect it. How much should you set aside? The old rule of 3 to 6 months of expenses still applies, but with a twist. If you are married with kids, own a home, or work in a volatile field, lean closer to 6 months. Some people think having money invested in the stock market counts as an emergency fund because they can sell if needed. These people have never experienced a real emergency during a market crash. When you lose your job and the market is down 30%, you will understand why cash is king. But here is where it gets interesting. You do not just stuff this emergency fund under your mattress. High-yield savings accounts are currently offering rates that have not been seen in over a decade. We are talking about 4 to 5% annual returns on money that is completely safe and accessible. That is real money on significant balances. Let us do some quick math. $10,000 in a traditional savings account generates maybe $10 per year. The same $10,000 in a high-yield savings account earning 5% generates $500 annually. That is enough to cover several months of utility bills just from interest on money you need to keep liquid anyway. The third critical move is eliminating any high-interest debt before you invest a single dollar. I know this advice is as exciting as watching paint dry, but it is mathematically essential. If you are carrying credit card debt at 20% interest while investing in the stock market, hoping for 10% returns, you are literally paying someone else to make you poor. The guaranteed return from paying off high-interest debt beats the uncertain returns from any investment. Carrying debt while trying to build wealth is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. Debt elimination provides something that investments never can: guaranteed returns and immediate cash flow improvement. Here is where most people mess this up. They want to keep their debt and invest simultaneously because they are worried about missing out on market gains. This is emotional thinking disguised as mathematical reasoning. The reality is that eliminating 20% interest debt gives you an immediate 20% return on your money with zero risk. The fourth thing you need to understand is the power of tax-advantage accounts. This is where most people leave serious money on the table. If you have not maximized your contributions to retirement accounts, you are essentially declining free money and paying unnecessary taxes. For 2025, the contribution limits for a 401k have increased to $23,500. If you are over 50, you can contribute even more with catch-up contributions. Traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs allow additional contributions. These are wealth-building machines that let you legally avoid paying taxes on investment growth for decades. Miss these contributions and you can never get them back. That unused contribution space is gone forever, along with decades of potential tax-free growth. The fifth crucial decision is choosing your investment strategy. The investment world is designed to separate you from your money through complexity, fees, and emotional manipulation. Everyone wants to sell you something. Here is what the financial industry does not want you to know. The most boring investment strategy consistently outperforms the exciting ones. While some guy is bragging about his cryptocurrency gains, the truly wealthy are quietly putting their money into simple index funds. Index funds are not sexy. They do not give you stories to tell at parties. But you know what is impressive? Actually having money when everyone else is broke. Index funds like the S&P 500 have averaged around 10% annually for decades. The math on this is stupidly simple, yet most people ignore it. $100,000 invested in an index fund averaging 10% annually becomes over $260,000 in 10 years without you adding another penny. In 20 years, it becomes over $670,000. In 30 years, you are looking at over $1.7 million. This is not get rich quick. This is get rich inevitably. But here is where people mess this up. They think they can beat the market by being clever. 90% of professional fund managers cannot consistently beat the market. Dollar cost averaging becomes your best friend when investing large sums. Instead of throwing all $100,000 into the market at once, spread your investments over several months. This strategy reduces the risk of investing everything right before a market crash. The sixth thing you need to understand is real diversification. Real diversification is not owning 50 different mutual funds that all hold the same stocks. It is spreading your risk across different types of assets that react differently to economic conditions. Real estate deserves serious consideration when you are working with six figures, not because you need to become a landlord dealing with tenants, but because real estate provides leverage and inflation protection. With $100,000, you could put down payments on properties worth several times your initial investment. If direct management is not for you, real estate investment trusts, or REITs, give you exposure to the market without the headaches. REITs trade like stocks, but own income-producing properties like apartments and shopping centers. The seventh and most important thing you need to do is develop systems that prevent you from sabotaging yourself. Having money is easy. Keeping money and growing money requires discipline that most people simply do not possess. Set up automatic investments that move money from your checking account to your investment accounts without requiring any decisions from you. When investing becomes automatic, you remove emotion from the equation. You cannot panic sell during market crashes if your money is automatically buying more shares every month. Now let us talk about the spike, the silent wealth killer that most advisors will never mention to you. Fees. A 1% annual fee might not sound like much, but on a $100,000 portfolio, that is $1,000 per year. Over 30 years, assuming 7% growth, that 1% fee cost you over $60,000 in lost returns. $60,000. This is why low-cost index funds are so powerful. Instead of paying 1 to 2% annually in fees, you might pay just 0.03%. The difference in fees alone can add hundreds of thousands to your net worth over decades of investing. The financial industry does not advertise this because their profits depend on you not understanding how much those fees actually cost you. As your wealth grows, you will notice a psychological shift. Suddenly, you have options that did not exist before. You can take calculated risk because you have a financial cushion. You can say no to jobs that do not align with your goals because you are not desperate for every dollar. Having money protects you from making desperate decisions that poor people are forced into every day. But with great power comes great responsibility. The responsibility is not to blow it all on stuff that makes you feel rich for 5 minutes. The temptation to upgrade your lifestyle the moment you hit six figures is overwhelming. Suddenly, that expensive car does not seem so expensive anymore. This lifestyle inflation is exactly what keeps people stuck in the middle class forever. They mistake having money for being wealthy. The truly wealthy understand that your lifestyle should be based on your passive income, not your net worth. Just because you have $100,000 does not mean you can afford to live like you have $100,000. That money needs to work for you. If you took that entire $100,000 and spent it on lifestyle upgrades, you would have nothing to show for it but memories. But if you invest it wisely and let it grow, you could have over $1.7 million. That is the difference between thinking like a consumer and thinking like an investor. The compound interest on properly invested money becomes absolutely ridiculous over long time periods. Each year you are earning returns not just on your original investment, but on all the previous returns too. Follow these steps, resist the urge to do anything flashy, and in a few decades you will be laughing at everyone who is still arguing about the latest trends while you are sipping coffee on a beach somewhere. Financially free, you have the power to change your family tree starting today. Don't waste the opportunity. I'll see you in the next one.